What is going on, everybody? It's Nothing But Skills here, and in today's video we're going to be showing you the build that I promised I would show you if we hit 1,000 likes on the last video, and we did. So here you go. This is the full build, and this build I personally think right off the bat I'm going to tell you guys works best in a group setting. It works better that way, and sometimes if you have two people running this, the healer hive can heal the group and keep you guys up. So if you're looking for a build that has heals to heal your team and then a heal to heal you, I'll show you how it all works in just a second. Don't forget, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up, and as always I appreciate all the support, especially the support you showed me on the last video. So we're going to be running around 2 offensive. You might be able to squeeze in 3 offensive if you guys get the perfect rolls, but I'm with 2 offensive and I'll tell you why. And then we have 12 defensive and then 6 utility. We can actually drop this down to 5 utility because all I need is 5. And you can see I don't really even need the extra utility because I have way more skill power than I need at 3,300. 3,000 is the max. That's where we need to be at with 459k armor and 50k health. But hey, let's get into the build, right? So we're running the technician. If you guys watched my last video, not my last, I want to say it was like 2 videos ago where I talk about 3 things you guys need to know how they work. These 3 things is actually something I am using in this build. All 3 of those things I am using in this build. So if you want more explanation on how those 3 things were working with this build, check out that video. So for the weapon, I am using the Police M4, and the reason I'm using the Police M4 versus the Rail Splitter, which I recently just got, is because I'm able to use an attachment on here, and we'll explain in a second. We can see the base damage on this one is 12,488, so it's a pretty good Police M4. The base damage after everything's added is 19.9k, and I'm sitting at 935 rate of fire with Allegro. So remember, I have Allegro on here, so that's that 10% rate of fire. So 935 is the rate of fire with this with measured, and then I also have rooted on here. So those are a couple things you guys need to keep in mind. Rooted, while equipped and in cover, all skill damage and healing is increased by 25%. Now, as long as I get into cover for those 10 seconds, I can get rooted to be active. I'm running the Eagle Barrel for the holster talent. While firing, I do get that 10% bonus armor, and then I do have protective reload on my pistol. So if you want to put it on your shotgun that goes in your sidearm, or if you want to put it on your pistol, protective reload, and then if you have the Eagle Barrel, protected fire. 2 talents that I would recommend you guys putting on. But let's get into the build itself, right? So we are running a 2-piece Yao gear set. This gives us 10% hazard protection plus 5% weapon damage, and this is why I'm able to run 2 offensive versus 3. I'm really just missing out on probably 1% weapon damage if I ran 3 versus 2, right? So on this mask, this is something where I can improve since I am over the 300 skill power. This is where I would put my hazard protection, which I already did. I already fixed this build. I have the skill haste. For the skill power, I put 40% hazard protection because I get 10% off the mask. So that puts me at 50% hazard protection. So you would want something like this Gilligard with perfect spotter. You see right here where it has 50% and then it has skill power. Ideally, this is something you would want on here. Now, if I put this mask on here, I would lose that 5% extra weapon damage. So that means I would have to change out my chest piece. But my chest piece is a really good chest piece, and you guys are going to see that in just a second. You do want to have spotter, 10% weapon damage to pulse enemies. That's in PvP. And then you remember, perfect spotter in PvP is only 12%. So you're really just 2% difference right there. In PvE, of course, it's 5% difference. So that's the difference between PvE and PvP. But you do want to have spotter on here. Now, some of you guys are going to ask, how do I have spotter active, right? So how do I have spotter active on here and I'm not going to be running a pulse? Well, if you're running the technician class and we head over to the M4, look at the M4. If we look at this right here at the underbarrel, the underbarrel is going to have a linked laser pointer, and it has a technician laser pointer that pulses targets, which is at aimed. So if it's pulsing targets, that means spotter will be active. So that is something that you gain from running the technician class. You gain a little bit of damage there because you're already going to be running some utility, and then you're able to run spotter, and then you don't even have to use that skill. You don't have to use a pulse to pulse enemies. So that's what's pretty cool. Now for the M4, since I am not running any kind of crit chance or crit damage on this build, personally, I will put something that's going to improve my stability or my optimal range. And then for the scope, either my stability or optimal range. Really up to you, but the ACOG scope gives you that 20% optimal range. Definitely going to be a good plus since I'm not going to be running any type of crit chance on here or crit damage. So that's what I would recommend you guys switching out on this build. So those are just some changes you guys can do to the weapons themselves. Now let's get into the rest of the build, right? Let's jump back into the other build. So if we dive into the chest piece is the second piece of Yao, and this is going to give us that 5% weapon damage. Now this chest piece was actually a really good one. I wish I could get a little bit better, but I can't complain. It rolled at 18.5% total armor. Then I got 13k armor on here. So I decided to roll 1,000 skill power roll on here. I got it a while back. I have a 900 one that I got a while back too. But yeah, I got this 1,000 skill power roll. I rolled it on here. And then we have Bloodsucker. So depleting an enemy's armor adds a stack bonus of 25% bonus armor. It adds 15% in PvP. And it only stacks twice, but it stacks up to 6 times in PvE. But yeah, so 11 or more. And that's where you guys can see the PvP stats. I just showed you the 15% versus 25% bonus, but the 15% is still really good. So if we take a look at the mods, I have 2 defensive system mending mods. I have 3,900 armor, explosive resistance, 4k total armor. Then we have another one, 3,800 armor, 4k total armor, and then 1,000 health. And I'm sorry, 4% total armor. So that's what you want to go for. If you did go with the Gilligard, you would have an offensive mod slot. So that's where you could get that offensive roll. But remember, if you ran Gilligard, you wouldn't be able to run 2 Yao. So you miss out on the 5% total damage, but you can get probably another 1% because you can get up to those 6.5% total armor mods. So a couple different ways you can build this, and I'm giving you those examples. Now for the holster, I'm running the Fenris holster. That gives me the 10% assault rifle damage. Then I also have 776 skill power on here. I rolled on here. We have a pretty low roll for health for 17. You usually want around like 30 to 40k health roll, and then we have devastating. So if I could get a better health roll on here, I could be up to around 80k health. Not too bad, right? And then keep the high skill power. So definitely a lot of improvements I can do on the holster. So for the first piece of Gilligard, this is going to give us 5% total armor, but we have 3 pieces, so we get the 20% hazard protection and the 15% pulse skill power. We do have 12% total armor on here, and then we have insulated 30% hazard protection. Now ideally, if I could get some 20% hazard protection on my gloves, I could be at 100% hazard protection without having that, and then I could roll something like skill duration, skill haste, something like that. Anything would be better on here because I wouldn't need the hazard protection, but I would lose a little bit of health, but I could gain something else on the holster itself. For the mods, we're running armor and total armor, and then armor and total armor. Always what you want to go for on these 95% of the time. The other 5%, you might want to put health ones on there if you're running some type of health build. But yeah, 95% total armor and armor. Now for the gloves, this is what I was talking to you guys about, where that health roll is. I could switch that out for hazard protection. If I had 20% hazard protection right there, I would be at 100%. Then I could just keep the 13% assault rifle damage. You want to have that compensated. The compensated is going to give you that 10% weapon damage when your critical hit chance is below 20%, which will be, and then it does require 3 or less offensive. So that's why I told you if you guys want to run 3 offensive, you can, but you won't be able to do it with the 2-piece Yao. Now we do have a utility mod on here that's going to give us skill power, explosive damage, and then reload speed. The reason why I don't have to have anything with Hive or Seeker Mine is because I'm already maxed out. So just having something that has explosive damage is going to help out all my Seekers. And finally, we're at the backpack. The backpack is one piece I really want to improve on. I already know what I want, and I'm just missing the right rolls for it. So you definitely want to have that total armor. This one has 18.5. I'm running 31k armor, and then we have 1% weapon damage. Ideally, I don't mind this roll because I'm still hitting hard enough just with the weapon damage I have. But the on the ropes is a waste. Even if I push this build to 7 utility, right? The chances of my on the ropes ever being active because of the cooldown times of my skills is maybe like 1 to 2 seconds, which isn't really a lot for me, right? Like, so for me, on the ropes is a waste right here. What I really would like to get is safeguard. I want that harden on here, and then this has utility, so I'm going to put more explosive damage and reload speed on here, skill power, and then we have a mending slot on here that's going to have armor and total armor and health. So yeah, safeguard is definitely something I would love to put on this build. I got a backpack with it, but the armor rolls are so low, I can't afford to drop any lower than where I'm at. I think like 450 armor with this build is probably where you want to be because you have some decent health, your heals are going to be there, and you're going to have survivability as long as you are strafing. If we get into the skills, let's talk about the skills. Let's talk about how this helps and how this helps us in team. So you want to run the Restore Hive. The Restore Hive Mine is pushing almost 40k healing. I do have some mods that are almost maxed out. I want to try to get better ones, but the chances of that. And then you do want to have this one that has charges. I did get a better charging one, so I think my charges are up to 50 charges, which is great for team play because you drop this down, your teammates start strafing around the heals and they're constantly getting healed or the damage for 40k. So it definitely helps them out. And if they're running anything like some seeker balls, that 40k plus their seekers is going to be enough, right? It's going to keep them up. And if you have 2 people on your team running this, you're going to have, imagine, 2 40k hives healing your team. So definitely something like for you healers out there that want to have a healing, this is great. And then the clusters is one of those things that causes a lot of controversy in the community, because these clusters, look at this, 72,000 PvP damage, but every time these goes off, I am getting 20% armor back. So at a 500k armor build, that's 100k armor back once these goes off. And if you put skill haste on both of these plus damage on the payload, you can get your seekers to almost about 10 to 12 seconds depending on how much skill power you have. How much skill haste you have. So imagine every 10 seconds you're getting about 100k armor back. It's pretty good, right? And then if you have a booster hive on your team, maybe your skills are going to go back a little bit faster. Some of your seekers are going to come back. So you're pretty good with those heals. Those heals are for you. So you're causing disruption, you're hitting people, you're stumbling them, and then you're putting damage on them, and it just works. It just works. I don't know if it's supposed to work like that, but this is how the Division 2 works right now. And those heals are probably some of your strongest heals. With having restore for your team, having the seekers for yourself, you're gonna survive for a while. And the build works. The build definitely works. And you guys saw the clips, like you guys saw pure gameplay in the last video. If you haven't, check out that video. The video right before this one shows you gameplay with this video. And there was only 3 of us, right? There's 3 of us. There's a server, and we were holding our ground. We were getting manhunts, and we were doing our thing. We get into the stats just so you can see: 0 crit chance, 25% crit damage, doesn't really matter, 55% headshot damage. We have almost 20k weapon damage on the weapon itself. We get down, you can see we have 21% all weapon damage, then we have 38% assault rifle damage, and that's pretty much our build right there. We are going to be sitting at 100% hazard protection with this build, and you guys would see that if I put the other mask on, but remember I told you I changed that. So we are at 100% hazard protection, and that's just with that one change on the mask I told you guys to do. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Leave a thumbs up if you found this video useful. As always, remember, these builds, you can tweak them yourself. Remember, every build is your own to make, to tweak. These are just templates thrown out there, and then hopefully you guys create something on your own and become better and better as the days go by. Thank you guys again. Until the next video, nothing but skills out.